As part of the research into the book on traditional architecture, which focuses on traditional buildings around the county, I was out here visiting the late Sean Murphy for the first time at this amazing property. And as I stepped back to admire this wonderful dresser, up on the top my eye was drawn to the bottle on the very top of the dresser. So that was our very first God in a Bottle that we came across in the county. First of all, it's the whole story behind them. It's about the Passion of Christ. So they typically have a tall central cross, and around the cross then you have the figures of the tools of the crucifixion. So there could be, a ladder, a saw, a hammer, pincers, and of course there's the whole secret of how they are put into the bottle. In some cases they're set on a cruciform base, so you can have the different tools laid around them. And because there's no glue, because there's liquid in it, they have to be all pegged or notched or dowel fixed. And the reason for putting the liquid in is because it enhances and magnifies the elements within it. So water can sometimes turn the timber black over time and needs to be refreshed. So that's why some of the makers actually use white vinegar instead. God in the Bottle became more popular during the early 19th century and onwards as clear glass bottles were more widely available. And they, in many cases, were thought to date from the Great War and were made by soldiers or sailors or navvies working on railways, or by prisoners in some cases. And some were made by travelling peddlers, and they were for sale at fairs or for pilgrimages, and they could be filled with holy water from wells. In other cases then they were made by hobbyists just to pass the time or to give away as gifts. It's only when you start to do something like this that people realise that actually, yes, we do have one, and they're always kept in an important position within the house, like within the main room, like the kitchen that we're in, on top of the hearth or on top of the dresser. And then in some cases they were left in the good room or the parlour in the glass cabinet. We were delighted to bring together a collection of 8 different bottles in the county. And even more unusually, we also came across 2 different families where bottles are still being made today.
Pat Gorman's my name. We're in Clourn, just outside of Tullamore. It did start with my father years and years ago. I was only a kid. From the time I was very young, a piece of timber would be brought into the house and the kitchen table would be cleared. And I have asked him, and he just learnt. He couldn't even remember where he learned. But he used to just make these for people all over the place. 10, 12 years of age, watching him doing them. And I suppose when I was 16, I decided I'm going to have a go at this. Didn't make it in the first attempt. Took me quite a few. And I made one slightly smaller than the ones he made. And he says, you have it. He didn't even know I was doing it. I was trying to do it in secret because he was pumping them out when he'd start at them. And he only done them once a year, which was in the month of November anyway, which was Holy Month when they were off the beer. So they had something to do with their hands at night.
My father started this in 1949, his first bottle he made. When he was a young fella, and he was in Wexford, living in Wexford at the time, he broke the bottle that his uncle had, and he had to fix it. So he would often go and went down around town of Wexford rooting for a bottle the exact same as the one he broke. And had to try to get the pieces in, or we didn't. The uncle would kill him that time, you know what I mean? Because that bottle cost a lot of money that time, not like now, you know what I mean? So that's how that started then, see. And then as the years went on, then he started making them, you know what I mean? And then I took it up after that, and you know what I mean, the years after. He really didn't show me, you see. You see, what he said, you'll never put one of them in a bottle. And I said, right. So I came home on a Sunday evening after in Shannon Bridge, and I started. So I done one, but it wasn't great now, you know. I improved from there on, you know what I mean? I kept at it and at it.
It's like a building. I start with the foundation. So I start with a base. I make my base that goes into the bottle first. And that's the base, that's my foundation to hold everything. and then I build all my pieces to suit. Depending on the type of bottle will depend on the height of the crucifix that I have in the bottle. And then once I have my base in to suit whatever bottle I'm doing, I work from there on up.
Every little piece, you have to carve it out, right? Cut. And it could be there, and I could be making that nail or that hammer, and in a split second, it could break it. You know what I mean? Same with the cross. Putting it into the bottle, the last piece, bottle breaks. You're back to square one. And every bottle is different now. You know, you can't just say, oh, I'll make 20 of these for Paddy bottle, or it doesn't work that way.
One of my father's old ones was found in a pub in Tullamore, which we were very lucky to find because of the pubs changing hands. Nearly every pub in Tullamore had one belonging to him at that time. And I'm talking late 70s.
The father is he's God in the bottle. He had the crucifixion of our Lord, where he has the palm trees, the spear and the hammer and the nail. That's what his bottle is based on. And then when the father had a stroke, I came along and I said, I'll try to do a different one. So that's where the Celtic cross came in. You see. Then I started the Celtic cross, could I do that? So from there on, then now the Celtic cross is on the go as well.
I have been asked to change different things, and whether it's stubbornness or what, no. I'm sticking with the one design. It's the one design I know, I like it. I don't feel it should be changed.
It's on the dresser here behind me, I just keep it, yeah. The God in the bottle, some people call them, there are different names on them. Now that was in the old house above our own house. I'm not sure of the history of where it came into being. It might have been bought at an auction, maybe, with, you know, or used to be travelling women going around with baskets years ago, selling bits and pieces. It could be, you know, it's there for years. It's still in good nick. Them bottles are very old, like it's, there was liquid paraffin in them, you know, they were out years and years ago, you know, so. It's hard to put an age on it. It goes back maybe 40, 50 or years, maybe more, I don't know, yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of work went into them, all the details with the pinchers and the different bits and the crucifixion scene, everything is in it. Bar Lord and the cross, he's on.
Well, the bottle's here for generations. It was here in my mother's father's time. He had it and he passed it down to my mother, and it's down to me now. Well, it's in the kitchen here for the last while back. For years it was out in the shed, forgot about, put out storage, and brought it back in and cleaned it up a little bit. And, it is important just because it was handed down through the families, generations. Wouldn't see as many like that anyway, as old as that one. To me it's nice to have it anyway, to keep it. You have it in remembrance of the people gone on. As far as I'm concerned, it's nice to have it, that's all, just to keep it. Yeah, I'll hold on to it anyway and pass it on to the next.
I got that back in 2006. We did a revamp on our funeral home here, and a friend of mine by the name of Pat Gorman, he lives between Killy and Killorn. He came into the funeral home and he looked, and I didn't have any religious symbols as such, because I tried to keep it simple and I tried to keep it basic. And he just said to me, he said, you know what, he said, Phil, call out to me, he said one of the days, he says, I have the very thing for you. So I called out to his work shed out in Killorn. He brought me in and he had a whole lot of these from kind of start to finish, you know, and he called them the tools of the crucifixion. And he said, would you like one of those for the funeral home? And I said, you know what, Pat, I'd love one. So he gifted me one as part of our new revamp as such. Everybody that comes in notices it and actually comments on it and asks me the same question, where did I get it?
The only thing I know is that my grandparents gave it to my Uncle John. He was in England for years, but he came back home every year. But after he died, his daughter decided to send it back here. She said this was the rightful place for it, you know, because it came from here. My grandparents had given it to them. So they brought it back home and it's here ever since.
My uncle was gone to England when I was only a baby. I only remember them coming home on holidays here. My granny must have given him that bottle when he went to England first. And I was born like in 1941, so I don't ever remember seeing the bottle here. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, I think it is beautiful. Beautiful thing. I would love to have remembered it, seen it here, but yeah, it's lovely.
It's a very old one, it's very unique, it's very old. And a lot of people do ask about it, yeah. So he has a pride of place up there, so everybody can see it. Fills me with pride to see everything, the way it was kept, and the way it's still being kept, which is brilliant. The only thing he's missing.
When these first came into the households, you know, there was a different focus and a different emphasis on life. And as we move on, you know, you can sometimes forget about that. And that was the whole purpose of doing the book, was to highlight them and just to show the craftsmanship that was involved in them and how integral they were to the family and to the home and to their lives. And I mean, there's lots of different regional and national variations in style, but each of the car versions are the result of meticulous execution. And they really were significant, and each one tells an individual story. And you can sense that they were very much like a symbol of both the home, of their faith, and of the family. And each one then was also a symbol of, you know, very skilled and yet unique Irish craftsmanship.
Isn't it a great achievement that only so many of us can do it, left to do it now, do you know what I mean? It's like the son now, my son now, he knows how to do it, but still he didn't do one, you know? And he can't say he done it until he does one, do you know what I'm saying? So, there's only a handful of people who can do it, not even a handful of people.
Well, it certainly wasn't forced on me. It's something, once I started doing, I nearly became addicted to it. And then with the tradition, it's a tradition that I feel should be kept going. A lot of people might see it as a religious item for their stand in their hall or whatever, mantelpiece. And then there's other people see it as a tradition and they're going, oh my God, this shouldn't be lost.
Look, it could take from 4 hours to 6 hours, and it could take 9 hours if you break it. And then I'll start again.
If I start one, I must stay at it finished, and it's going to take me 5 hours by the time I actually have it in the bottle, ready to give to someone. And sometimes it's an escape down here, just to get away from the hustle and bustle, have me fire lit, my cup of tea beside me, happy out.
Like wet days now, that's today is for them now, you know. Come out here into the shed and make one or two. That's all you make in a day.
They can watch me making all the pieces, they can watch me putting everything together, but like every good chef, they have a secret as well. The secret's getting into the bottle.
Yeah, everyone thinks I break the bottles. I don't. They're all down through the neck. And they say, you're a liar. You're breaking the bottle and putting them in and sticking it back. And I told them the work I had, break the bottle, and when they have it broke and the cross behind it, come back to me and let me see it. And not one of them came back to me yet with the cross in the bottle. So doesn't that tell you?
A lot of different questions as to why this and how this and what sort of glue do you use. There's no glue whatsoever. That's being honest now, there's no glue whatsoever. The secret is getting into the bottle, and that's why I like doing it. And I don't know anyone see me putting it into the bottle, not even my own wife.